It is Christmas time, so I'm going to share this testimony of something you probably don't want to stumble upon during the holiday season if you have an attitude. I'm going to use my story, of course, but I had one. So when I was signing up for this membership, the young girl was like, "Oh, we're going to give you this $25 discount," and then revoked. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's not really taking it in the computer." Well, that's the day and age of computers, right? You can't really get what they say. It could be a bait and switch deal. So I'm like, well, if I pay it, will I get reimbursed? We already know the answer to that. No. So I'm like, well, it might be best that you just not mention it, because if I had not known, I wouldn't feel as if there's like a dangling carrot in front of me and then you're ripping it away. And she was, nice and kind. And she's like, well, I could talk to my manager. I'll leave a note. And I'm like, okay. So I go in, come out. A few days later, I come back in, and the manager was there. Looks very young, by the way. And I said, "Is there any way that you can help me out with that, discount when I signed up?" And she's like, "No, they told me about you." And it was just like stoic. And, I didn't take kindly to that. And so without saying very much, I was also able to respond with my facial expression, a little bit disdainful, somewhat judgmental, just saying. And she got the vibe. And I'm like really digging myself into a pit at this point, because now I need her to give me what I want, which is access to the time that I want to sit in that tanning bed. And she was like, deny, of course, because my attitude was piss poor. And I understand that. So I wasn't too kind back. And by the time I get to my room, the Lord's like, really? Really? And I'm like, yeah, that was probably not the best behavior for somebody that really is out there about Jesus everywhere I go, because, I'm not really being an extension of heaven at that point. So I came out. Of course, she's hiding, probably looking at me through the cameras. And it was like, I couldn't find her. Went home, repented, and came back sometime later. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. I realize that you probably have to answer to this lovely computer system because it's taking over all of our lives, and that you really have no jurisdiction. And I was blaming you. And she was like, it's okay. And I'm like, okay. Wasn't a lot of lovey-dovey. It was just, okay. I had to say something. And she was kind. Come in a few more times, and it's always like, I don't want to ruffle feathers. I'm just going to here's my name. Let me take this. And, just short and sweet. And then yesterday, I was in a good place. And the Lord has been really helping me with my attitude. I'm just saying. And I went in, and she was there, and she came up smiling. And I was like, hello, how are you? And she's like, I'm fine. And I'm like, it is so good to see you smiling. It's really good to know that you've forgiven me, because I really do feel drawn to you. And boom, it was like, from heaven. We started talking about how our first experiences in church were Pentecostal, a lot of strictness, a lot of rules, but we still believe in Jesus. We just don't attend church, and we're trying to work on our attitude. And she's like, actually, you remind me of me. And I'm like, well, I'm older, so I'm sure, I'm not setting the very good example, but I'm really appreciative that we are able to talk Jesus that is really exposing our vulnerabilities. And in forgiveness, we were exemplifying reconciliation. And she full-fledged was like, I've been short with clients before. I really struggle with my own battles. And I'm like, we all do. But that's the beauty of saying, I do have a vice. My vice is I'm human. My vice is that I'm first spiritual, but I act soulful. And we were just cutting up back and forth. And then the other girls that are working there, they're all listening. And it's back to where it always has been. Like, it was ground zero. And the Lord was like, see, when you exemplify me, when you show me, everything falls into place. This sweetheart actually said to me, you know what, I'm not tanning today, so you can go ahead and take the highest upgrade and get in that fancy bed right there on me. And I literally started crying. I was like, you've no idea. Because it was mercy and grace and forgiveness from me. Because I was obedient and repenting and trying to get my act together. And he opened the door for a new way of communication to allow each of our parts to be healed. And a friendship was birthed. Merry, Merry Christmas, and bring all of your parts to the table and know that everything has a redemptive opportunity, because this is the season of love, care, concern, and change.